Welcome back to another episode of Be Our Guest here on Musical Theater Radio. I am your host, as always, Jean-Paul Jovanoff. As you all know, I love supporting new musicals and their creators. And it's always great to meet a fellow supporter of future musical theater. So, you know what, let's dive right in and let's get right into it and discover a little bit about our next guest, Tim Jerome. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jean-Paul. Thank you.
Awesome. So I start my interviews the same way every time. We always ask for a 30-second bio. So in 30 seconds, who is Tim Jerome?
Damn me if I know. All right. I'm an actor. I'm a singer. I'm an idea man. The best thing I do is come up with ideas, and all my friends, I know when I say, hey, I had an idea, they hang up on me. Yep. So they know already. But I've started a couple of companies. I started a company to make radio drama, a thing called Radio Arts. And that was a long time ago. I make radio drama. I make radio musicals. And then about 40 years ago, it's almost going on 40 years now, I started a company. I've been acting on stage, pretty much. My stage acting is kind of where Tim Jerome makes his home. I've done a bunch of films, but really my favorite form of performance, and I see it as a spiritual involvement, is on a stage with a live audience in that kind of situation there, where we encourage them to suspend their disbelief and take into their heads what the writer has produced, and that we are performing. So I was doing a lot in all my career. I was very lucky and got an early start. I think I did my first big Broadway show when I was 24. Understudy to, I was in Man of La Mancha, and understudied Jose Ferrer, played the villain in the show, and that was my first Broadway gig. And after that, I would do anything that anybody would ask me to do. I just didn't want to stay with the show for more than about 3 years. So I bounced around quite a bit during those times, and then realized that New York was inundated with new musicals. People were trying to get them done in New York, and there wasn't enough room. There weren't enough producers. There weren't enough opportunities. And so I came up with an idea that I called National Music Theater Network, where I would set up it was a two-part system. And I got a hold of a lot of directors, theater directors who were friends of mine or who I knew or were referred to me. And I asked them if they would be willing to read a new show and fill out an evaluation report on it, and then recommend it for development or not recommend it for development. It was good enough to be developed or it was not good enough. And this became the evaluation committee. That started in 1984. 1984 is when I put this company together. So, and over the years, because this company doesn't exist anymore, National Music Theater Network, but the two-part program, the evaluation program, which precedes everything, and then once the shows are recommended, we take those recommended shows, put them in a library of recommended works, and try to get regional producers to take a look at them. I'll tell you more about that later, but that two-part system became, after National Music Theater Network fell apart, and there's a story there, which I will or won't tell. I started a company called Main Street Musicals, which basically does the same thing with the same people. There's the same directors are reading and evaluating new works that are submitted. And we now have over 200 shows that are that have been recommended for development. Half of them we have the materials for. Half of them were submitted before digital. So we don't have all the materials. I'm in a process of trying to get materials from the creators, and so that we can post them up on the web, and they're there for anybody to listen to. They can listen to the songs, they can read the script, they can look at the synopsis, and the only thing we don't give you is the score. It's the piano vocal score. That's the way we protect the work.
Nice. And I want to talk more about Main Street musicals for sure. I just want to take it back. I'm always curious. You did a lot of acting, back in the day. What was the trigger to move into the NMTN concept, creating that company? Was there something that just made you want to start working on new musicals?
It was the tension. It was the disappointment that shows that I thought had real merit, that I was involved in as an actor, were not getting produced, were not getting developed. And then looking around and just talking about it with a lot of people. I talked about it with producers and directors and other actors, and the writers I talked about, and then finally realized that all this focus on New York, everything has to start in New York. It's got to stay in New York.
Yeah.
And I'm looking around and I'm saying, well, wait a minute. What about Cleveland? What's wrong with Cleveland? And there are hundreds of cities out there, hundreds, that don't have new works being developed locally. And then, I woke up. I had the dream and I woke up. And that's when National Music Theater Network started.
Very cool. And I love that you said that. And I say it all the time too. New York, the West End is fantastic. You want to have your show there, but it isn't the be all and end all of everything. I would rather have my show run in Cleveland and then Columbus and then Kansas City and then Calgary, and have it run all those places than just have a 2-week run on Broadway and $1 million later nothing happens, and it's fantastic.
That's the other. You say $1 million. You're absolutely right. I mean, everything is so much more expensive in New York, and I'll probably get into talking about how I am working to nationalize this project, because that's been the hard thing. When a city doesn't have the normal, or what is common in New York, opportunities for shows to get put up on their feet. There's a reluctance. Everybody's got a reluctance, because all they're thinking about, a regional theater, is getting the audience in the door. Yeah. They want somebody to pay for a ticket so that they can survive, so that they can keep going. And it's just that when you're this low on the development ladder, you're not going to get people to pay for a ticket. They're interested, they're curious, they'll come maybe if you invite them. This is a new musical. Nobody's written anything at all no reviews. You can't go to the local paper and find out what the critic thought. There are a lot of obstacles.
So when you started NMTN back in the day, who did you reach out to? Who did you feel was I don't want to use the word worthy, but could help you advance this whole idea? And who helped you with that?
Well, I had 2 partners, one a director, and one was a businessman who came in with enough money to get us our office. We had an office in the Lincoln Center area, in the Rockefeller Center area, mid-50s. And we'd sit around and try to figure out how to make this thing work, because there was there wasn't anything that was like this at all. I mean, yeah, there were publishing houses, which, you could send, if you wrote a musical, you could send your musical to a publishing house and they would either accept it or reject it. And if they accepted it, well, you're going to have to pay them money if they got you a place to do the show somewhere. but very few shows were developed that way compared to the number of shows that were worthy of development. That was the problem. It was a an accident waiting to happen. So I then started reaching out to directors because I knew that we needed to get a system to get together for to find the works that really deserve to be developed. And we came up with, and the directors themselves wrote it, the 10 directors that I was able to recruit at that time. There were some music directors involved as well. So there's some, stage directors and music directors. I accepted them both. And they came up with the evaluation report form, which is easy to fill out because it's blanks and multiple choice and stuff like that. And then there are places where you could write a paragraph about something like, well, what do you think of the, tell me what you think of the music and in terms of its being an expression of the character themselves. Is this character music or is it just top 40s? So we had those sections of the evaluation report in there too. And we basically have been using the same evaluation report form since the 1980s. It's in a different location, it's been a paper, it's been digital, it's been, and now it's on the web. We have a platform where people go to put their shows, and where the directors come in the side door in that platform, and they look at the show. They can't see the name of the creator because that's all kept secret. Yeah. And then they fill out the report form, they push submit, and we get it, and then we return the evaluation report to the creative team. It's complicated, and it's not, and actually right now the evaluation program is on hold while we go and look at the changes that have been made in the platform and got to get it working again.
Yeah, I can see why the evaluation form wouldn't change since the 80s, because quality and what you look for then is the exact same thing as now.
Exact same thing. You're absolutely right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, but the tough thing was to get the promotion side of things. How do you get these works shown in those regions? Yeah. And am I allowed to actually continue to talk about this?
You can talk about whatever you want. Yeah. I'm very curious. Like you said, the difficulty is getting the word out there. How did you get the word out there to people? Because back in the 80s, now it's easy, right? You throw an email out, you throw it out on social media, everybody knows about it. How back then did you? It must have been an inner circle of people, and then just spread out like that commercial, and they told two friends, and they told two friends.
Well, so the inner circle you're talking about evolved from the fact that I'm an actor and I know actors. Mm-hmm. I know actors out in the regions too, because I've actually performed out in the regions. Oh, okay. So I called people I knew, and I said, would you do a couple of concert versions of musicals if I send them to you? Mm-hmm. And I would get, where I would get yeses, I would send them 3 shows, and they would do a little season of, a little festival of new musicals, of people holding book, standing on a stage, and with an invited audience or a paying audience or a just show up audience. Mm-hmm. The problem that I faced with that technique is that I was dealing with actors, and actors, when they get a job, they have to do the job. And so if they realize that putting together a festival takes time, and it takes time away from maybe doing a show as an actor. So I had a really hard time keeping things going in any city I tried to. And that became a real issue and a real obstacle. And I won't go through all the ways I tried to get this promotion program started in the various cities around the country and in Montreal, because I had a good friend in Montreal who would do it. But what I've been doing very recently with the Main Street Project is trying to get professors of musical theater in colleges around the country and elsewhere, outside the country, interested in doing a table read. Now, a table read is the easiest, cheapest, first thing anyone does wherever they do a new show or a show, any show.
Yeah.
If you are putting a show on a stage, the first thing you do is pass out the script and sit the cast down around a table and read that script through. That's called a table read, and that's the name of this program that Main Street is now promoting to the musical theater educators. And we're kind of in the middle of that promotional effort. There was a recent conference that I had hoped to attend and that I had hoped to provide information, material about the program, but I didn't get it together in time. And now I have a flyer that I want those folks to have, and I am in the process of getting it into their hands. I do have connection. I do have the way of doing that. And what would happen is, because I would encourage them to do it on Zoom, to do a reading around a table where there were cameras set up so that the creative team could attend. Mm-hmm. And they could be there on Zoom and watch the whole thing go down. Now, in a musical, it's not only one person who performs at a time. Obviously, there are duets, there are trios, there are chorus numbers. If we actually get into this, there's going to have to be some pre-recorded and done. That the musical numbers will have to be pre-recorded and played in the context of the show once the actual table read gets started. and here's one of the things that, and it could be very entertaining. I mean, my sense of it is that if it's done right, if people care about it, if the professors really find a show that they really like in our library, say, this is the show. Oh, and there's a great part for so-and-so, one of my students. Oh, and look, here's a great part for one of our alumni. And they don't have to be in town. They can be on Zoom to perform it. Yeah. Even if they sing, there can be a way of doing that. And then it occurred to me, and this is nobody's heard of this. This is you. I'm going to introduce this concept on your show.
Very nice. All right.
And that is that once these table reads are put together, mm-hmm. once they are something, they can be used in a different function. And the function that I am going to begin to promote is as the event that would be presented during a benefit. In other words, it would be a fundraising tool. So you invite people to pay to attend a table read event on Zoom or live, if it's around a table on a stage, or people spread across a stage or something like that. I mean, it would be easier to do in some respects, but in other respects, certainly now, I don't think that it would, but there are a lot of local charities that would be very grateful, I think, to have an event that people would come to because they like musicals and they're curious about new musicals.
Yes.
So these table reads, they might turn into the attraction for fundraising events. That's kind of what I've came up with last week, and I'm going to try and work on that.
That's that's really smart. All the things you've just said is a brilliant way of getting people involved, because as you said, New York, it costs so much money and it's so difficult to get new shows, but you got to go to the places like the education facilities where money isn't the key, right? If they don't make money, that's okay. And then by incorporating the charity aspect, you're helping everybody. It's a win-win-win-win situation. The charity gets some stuff, the musical gets some representation. People can discover new musicals, they can help the charity. And that's the way I think we need to start looking at things in general. And I applaud you on going forward with that and everything you've done.
It was suggested recently that the most important fundraising activity would be to raise money for scholarships for the colleges themselves.
For sure.
Underwrite people's tuition. That way, if somebody comes in, and auditions and they're good enough and the professors say that one, let's give the money to that one. Where does the money come from? Well, the money could come from these table reads, these live table read charity events. So I think there's something going on. I just have to put it together and sell it right. So so it gets done. You know the story.
Oh yeah, for sure. But you know what? We need people like yourself that are willing to try. So many people don't try. They look at it. This is the way it was done. This is the way it is. I'm going to just do it that way. Well, great. That's good. But that doesn't help. That doesn't advance anything. We need people like yourself who, since the 80s, have been trying different things. And I'm pretty sure, like all of us, not everything was successful, right? It succeeded, but there was problems with it or whatever. But you know what? You learn, you keep trying. But if you don't do that, we don't move forward. So
right. And moving forward is all we've got. Just only have moving forward.
Very cool.
My dad was an inventor. He was an engineer. He was electrical engineer, and he invented stuff. So I kind of came down under him. I was going to be an engineer when I first went to college. I was at an engineering school upstate New York, Cornell. And I think I was there for one semester. And then I realized I can't be an engineer. It's just not going to work.
Yeah.
So I tried, and then there was quite a bunch of stepping stones along the way, and I got drenched a couple times, but I made it across the street to Ithaca College and became a music major. And I have no regrets. I have no regrets.
That's fantastic. That's incredible. So tell us a little bit more about Main Street Musicals and all the things that they offer to help new creators and their works, and maybe what is the criteria to get on the website?
Well, in terms of, the website is out there. It's www.mainstreetmusicals.org, and on the site there's a menu item called library, and there's a library and there's an annex. In the main library are all the shows for which we have materials. So every title is in red, and underneath the title in black are the names of the creators. And if you click on the red title, it will take you to a show page. And on the show page, there's a synopsis and there's a player. And on the player are all the songs in the show. For most of them, I think there may be some with with less than all of them. But and sometimes they're done really well, or sometimes they're done with the composer singing slightly out of tune. That's not true. They will sing it. I'm just making fun. And there's a link to a script. So you read the script, and then you play the song when it comes up, and then you read the script, and you can actually, for no charge, read a script and listen to a musical. And we have over 100 of them up there. In the annex, all the titles are in black, and they're not linked. And I am trying to pull together a group of people who will go after the creative teams, because it's a lot of work, to track them down and I have the paper. but the paper has telephone numbers that are sometimes just no longer good.
Yeah.
You know, because these were shows that were submitted and recommended back in the 90s and the 80s. And those shows are old now.
Yeah.
But they're still fresh. They're still, you know, they're still wonderful shows. Yep. And they deserve to be developed. I mean, do we not do Gilbert and Sullivan just because they're so old? No, we do those shows. We do old shows.
Exactly.
Carousel, come on, give me a break.
Yeah.
So those are the two sections of the library. There's the regular the main branch, and there's the annex. We also have descriptions of shows that of projects that we did in the past. I remember not too long ago, and I'm going to revive it. I think there was a competition called the Callbacks.
Okay.
And what we would do is we would suggest to actors that they pick a song from a show, and we would give them. Actually, we selected 5 songs for each range of voice, and actors or students could go and select a song. We would give them the score. They would record themselves singing the score, and they would submit it. And we would have a bunch of directors and writers and producers look at those submissions and pick the most talented person. And usually these people came from the regions, obviously. And so we did that for a couple of years, and then it got, I got busy and I couldn't pull it together. So, we have this is a company that runs on no money.
I hear that.
No money company. And I would love if out there's a development director that wants to come and work with us and get money. I would hire administrators to run the evaluation program, to make sure we were always in touch with the creative teams whose works were being done in the regions. There's a lot to be done, and I can't do it all. So I do what I can, and we just move forward as quickly or as slowly as is possible to move.
Yeah, I've looked at the library and the annex, and it's funny because in the library, the reason I discovered you and mainstream musicals is because of Eric Sirota and Hannah Stevie.
Hannah Roth Stevies.
Yes. Because I play some of their shows. I play about 5 of the shows in your library on our radio station as part of our sampler platter. Because again, I'm trying to help new musicals as well. And yeah, they turned me on to you and your site, and that's why I reached out, because I think it's so important what you do, and more people should be visiting your website. Everybody goes to Samuel French and MTI and things like that, and great, wonderful, but yeah, you've created an opportunity for people to discover new musicals, read them, listen to the music, all for free, and an opportunity to put it on that nobody else is putting on.
That's right. And frankly, and just to go one step further, if anybody is in a position where they can actually develop a show, all they have to do is get in touch with me. I'll put you right in touch with the creative teams. You can make your deals with them. And my guess is that they would be on their knees praising you and for any activity that you might be able to provide, because they have worked for years often,
Yep.
to come up with these shows, and they're just sitting there not going anywhere. This is very frustrating.
Yeah.
But the urge to create is not something you can turn down. You either do it or something inside you dies.
For sure. And I've always said, whether, and it doesn't even matter whether I like a show or not, it's irrelevant, but they all need to be heard. And because there is somebody out there who will like it, love it, and want to put it on. So yeah, I commend you on everything you've done over the years. And
we've had, over the years, it's been up and down. There was a time with National Music Theater Network where we started doing these presentations in New York because I only knew people in New York. Right. And so I would pull together a little festival and do it in one of the small theaters in town or something like that, and just do concert readings of you know, 3 shows or 4 shows or something like that. But then a guy from Australia came over. He had some foundation had given him money to work for whatever company he wanted to work for, and he chose National Music Theater Network. So over time, he became the executive director, and he came up with the idea of the New York Musical Theater Festival, which was a big project.
Yes.
And a project that people still remember. Well, he came to me and he said, look, I got this project. I knew about it. And he said, can we put it up? Can we do it? And I said, sure, what the heck? Well, that's 20 shows, you know, or more, that were put up in 5 different theaters, 6 performances each. And it would run for about 3 weeks.
That's great.
And it was like big, and he had people who were New Yorkers, you know, New York centric, who loved this idea and who came and supported it. And the problem was that he would charge the creators to put their works in the show, in the series. Well, a few years later, after he had to go back to Australia, and his successors, somebody that he had selected, took over the New York Musical Theater Festival. The board of directors, which by that time was completely committed to the New York Musical Theater Festival, and only saw what the basic mission of the organization was, which was to promote these shows regionally, that board of directors was no longer very interested in what I was doing. And so they made it impossible for me to continue in my position. And so I was forced to resign. And I was out of the business for about 2 years. Before I came up with Main Street Musicals and put the project back together again under a different corporate entity. And as time went on, the New York Musical Theater Festival got further and further in debt. They were spending a lot of money. I don't know if anybody was actually filching money. I have no idea, because I was out of it.
Yeah.
But a few years ago, they went bankrupt, and the original company went bankrupt. You must know this, you know this.
Yeah, I remember reading about that.
Yeah, it was, it was sad, because I really kind of liked the name, you know, National Music Theater Network. I liked the name. And I've often thought of trying to revive the name, but you know what? If I wanted to revive the name, I would have to pay off all the debts, and millions of dollars, or I'd have to come up with to have the name back. In any case, we're Main Street Musicals now, and there is no National Music Theater Network left. Though there may actually be other organizations that are trying to promote the development of new musicals, and you know that.
Yeah, and I'm always looking for them. I'm always trying to see what I can do to support and promote it as well, because I think you have to have a certain type of mindset to be willing, like you said, make no money. Like, there's no money
in it,
but it's a passion, and it's a love, and it's a desire to support others and promote others,
and it's easy to convince people who are in the business, directors and actors primarily, stage managers as well, to work for this project for no money, because if a work gets picked up, there are jobs for everybody.
Yes,
there's jobs for everybody. I mean, any particular show will shed tens, maybe even hundreds of jobs over the years, for artists, for actors, for set designers, for stage managers, for for orchestra members. This is the plant, the seed. And if the seed grows,
Yep.
If we were all, all of a sudden we can all pick flowers. But there you go.
Yeah, it's so true. Tim, I could talk to you about this stuff for, well, hours and days. So, but I want to thank you so much for coming on and introducing the Main Street musicals to people who might not know about it, elaborating on how it began for others who know about it. And please, thank you for everything you've done over the years.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. I really do like talking about it, Jean-Paul, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to expose the program to your listeners. And if I may, I'll just let people know that they can get in touch if they go to the www.mainstreetmusicals.org, or tim@mainstreetmusicals.org is my email address.
For sure.
And you can participate. There are places, I could put you in the company if you wanted to do something, contribute something. That's great.
I would love to. I think once the interview is done, I want to talk to you more anyways, and talk about some stuff. But I have added mainstreetmusicals.org to our MT resources page on our website, because I think it's an important thing for creators to know about you. So I want to give as much exposure as possible.
Thank you.
To the
Thank
company,
you.
for sure.
I appreciate it.
Now, before we go, I always ask 3 questions of my guests. There's no right or wrong answer, but we get to know you a little bit better and judge you on what you say. I won't judge you, but the listeners, they're very harsh.
Okay.
We'll give you an easy one to start with. So question number 1. What creator or team within musical theaters had a great influence on you? No, it could be a composer, lyricist, director, producer, actor, even stage manager. It could be somebody famous or not famous, like a teacher. Is there someone in musical theater, or a couple of people, that have had a big influence on you?
Well, I'm fortunate in that I have had many mentors. If I were going to go and pick a show that changed my life around, besides Man of La Mancha and all, I mean, the next show I did on Broadway was the Rothschilds. It was Sheldon Harnick and Jerry Bach, and Sherman Yellen wrote the book, and those guys stayed friends, especially Sherman and Sheldon. Jerry was sort of, he passed away a long time ago too. But I've been in touch with those guys, and they've meant a great deal to me. But I tell you, I have so many important friendships that have been made over the years. I mentioned Jose Ferrer. He was a beginning, he was George Hearn, because I did regional theater with him, and I go, oh my God, what an actor. Holy moly. And we've stayed friends, we've stayed friends, and I mean, I cannot complain. I have many, many mentors, many friends. But those are the guys I mentioned were the early ones, and the ones that, made everything kind of a boomerang forward. No, boomerang's the wrong way.
That's okay.
Thank you.
That is the correct answer. Because, well, all those names that you mentioned are incredible, contributors to musical theater, and it just proves. But like what I say is, talk to everybody, stay in touch with everyone, don't burn any bridges,
Right.
Because some of those people were famous before and were doing shows, and some of them probably weren't, and they grew and they contributed to your life and what you've done and things like that. It's building these relationships, and that's the key. I think. It doesn't matter how and I always say when I'm casting shows and I work with students at York University, it's what, talent is fantastic, but it's the relationships, and it's the people and their personalities and who they are. That's way more important. I'd rather deal with a less talented person with a personality than the greatest singer or performer ever. So thank you. So correct answer. So,
that was question 1.
That was question 1. Question 2 is, now you've been a part of a lot of new musicals, a number of them. Which one or ones did you feel just didn't get the love they deserve for whatever reason, and people should know more about them?
Well, there was one called the Moony Shapiro Songbook that closed opening night. just as we were realized that we knew now what the show was about. On opening night, we did the show right for the first time. This was a show that was done in England, and the director came over and he directed 5 of us in the show. I happened to be the title character, but Jeff Goldblum was in it. He was the star of the show. They were actually we weren't getting it right, because it was such a fast-moving show that played off the reactions of the audience, that and there was no preview. There was like 1 week of previews, maybe 2, but we didn't get it. They were changing it. They were rehearsing. We had to do this and that during the day, and then the final couple of days, when the show was frozen, and we were able to play it and start to realize, oh, Judy Kay was in the show too. She was there, and Annie McGreevy, another one. After a couple of days before we opened, the show was frozen, and we learned how to play it. Those were the days when the critics came, and they didn't see a good show. They didn't see a show that was ready yet. Yeah. Opening night, it was ready. And then the reviews came out, and they hated the show, or they didn't give the show a good review. And the producers, rather than do the right thing, and they explained this, and they admitted this to me in the months that went beyond. They admitted that they closed the show too soon, that they should have kept the show open. And all of us, wide-eyed and dazed, walked away from that opening night party, realizing that there was no show anymore, and we just learned how to play this wonderful musical. I still sing when I'm asked to sing. I'll sing a song from Moony.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's being a producer, it's got to be such a hard thing to make that razor thin call of, is it going to work or isn't it going to work? Because if it,
right, yeah,
and you look back and you go, I should have, or I should have, and it's
right,
it's
yes,
no
right.
win, but it's
there's no right answer either. No. No one could tell the future. No one would know the future.
Yeah.
It only occurred to these guys when they really saw that the show was coming together and that the audiences were loving it, that they realized they'd done the wrong thing. There you go.
Is that show, what happened to it? Like, is there availability or?
I'm not sure. I don't think it was ever done again.
Wow.
To my knowledge, anyway. But it's worthy. It's a worthy show, and certainly worth looking into if you're looking for a show to do, and you don't want to pick one out of the Main Street library.
Of course, go to Main Street musicals first, obviously.
Of course, that's right.
And things like that. What you just said, it just reminds me, like, everything needs to be recorded. Like, I wish everything had a cast recording. So
yeah,
these moments aren't lost, and it's so easy now. Like, because how many people have recorded their cast recordings on Zoom, right? But
that's right.
But back then, there's so many shows are going to be lost to time, just because.
I mean, that wasn't the only show that closed before it opened. Closed that quickly. I was in a show called The Baker's Wife, and you may know of that show.
Yeah.
Now that show went around the country. And as a matter of fact, not only did it go around the country, but it changed its orchestrations. The entire orchestrations were replaced. Mm-hmm. This was a David Merritt show. And they let the original star, Chaim Topol, mm-hmm. They let him go, and they hired Paul Sorvino to replace him. And even with all that major change, the show closed before it went to Broadway. And it closed in the most unpleasant way I have ever experienced. Do you want me to just tell you?
Oh, I would love to. You've piqued my interest. How can we stop now?
I won't tell you what led up to this moment.
Yeah.
But tempers and relationships were so destroyed. David Merrick had doubled the out of town run time. So instead of just doing 3 months out of town, we did 6 months out of town.
Wow.
And we were in Washington, D.C., and there was a rehearsal and we had not yet opened. I think it was the night before we were supposed to open, the day before we were supposed to open in DC. And up on the top floor, there's a rehearsal room, and we were in that rehearsal room. Well, the last moment of work done on The Baker's Wife was one actor being held by another actor to stop him moving forward, and another actor being held by the director to stop him moving forward. And they were both coming at each other with fists raised. Wow. They were going to beat each other. They were going to smack each other with their fists, and they were stopped. And there was a tableau vivant. I will remember for the rest of my life, of these two guys held by two other guys with their fists raised. Stop. Freeze. Keene Curtis, you may remember Keene Curtis, a wonderful character actor who died a number of years ago, who was one of the stars of the show, who had in fact been in the Rothschilds with me, ran crying from the room. And the next time I saw him, he was on the phone with his agent. And that was the end of it. We were sent home. We were sent back to our hotel, and there was nothing ever done. And then they called us again to do the cast album. They want to do a cast album. Yeah. None of the actors who were in the ensemble. I had a small part. I was in the ensemble though. Did the album. Nobody from the ensemble did the album. I think Patti LuPone, I think, was who had taken over the starring role. That was her first starring role. I think she may have performed on that album. I'm not 100% sure. But that was the worst. I mean, you expect there to be some tension in a rehearsal room, but you don't expect people to try to, slam each other with their fists. So it was awful.
Wow.
The worst.
It's wow. Some of the stories that
that's not a story that's widely known.
Wow. It's people don't realize how much it is tense. When you're trying to build something and especially if it's not working the way you want it to.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow. Well, thank you for that story. That's
good. Glad you were able to. I was able to tell it to you.
Thank you. That's what. That's worth 2 points. You just got 2 points for that one, just from the story and your original answer. That's okay. Wow. Thank you.
Sure.
Question number 3, which would be nice and easy compared to that. Food in the theater or cell phones in the theater, which is worse?
Oh boy. Well, I guess I would guess cell phones in the theater, because a cell phone, food is like the person next to you is going to say, "Hey, can I have a bite?" But a cell phone, everybody's going to scream, "Hey, it's for you."
Oh, it must have been so much easier back in the 80s. Cell phones didn't happen. Nobody brings a landline into the theater, and so.
I wonder what can be done about that. I don't think there's much. The technology has not given us the solution yet.
No, and it's an easy solution. Just turn it off. Like,
of course that's the solution.
How hard is that? Just to turn off your cell phone and don't look at it for the 2 hours or whatever it is.
Like,
that's right. You survived. Like, the audience survived in the 70s and 60s and 80s and before that without cell phones. We were okay. What if if you were seen on your cell phone
anytime, even during intermission or during, you could be removed or so you get some sort of a penalty.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Again, I don't need to look at mine all the time. But
No, I mean, that's who you should be glad to have a few minutes away from it.
Exactly. I know. Just get away from it, leave it at home. Like the kids.
Yeah.
Leave the kids at home, leave the cell phones at home. It's just nice to get away.
No, you're absolutely right. Food and cell phones, a great question.
Yeah. Well, thank you. The correct answer for me is neither. I hate them both. Ban them.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Yes. So
That's the correct answer for sure.
For 4 points out of 3. Congratulations, Tim. Great score. You win. I have no prizes, but you can brag to everybody.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Again, Tim, thank you so much for coming on and talking to me and introducing the world to Main Street musicals and the stories you have, because I love hearing all of them, and there's probably tens of thousands more of about new musicals and being on stage, et cetera, that you could tell us. So thank you so much.
Well, you're very welcome, and thanks for inviting me. I really had a good time, and I'm so happy that you're out there doing the holy work.
Thank you. All right. We were just speaking with Tim Jerome from Main Street Musicals here on Be Our Guest. Tune in next week as we'll speak with another guest or guest about their life, love, and passion. That is musical theater. I am your host, as always, Jean-Paul Jovanoff. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.